Howdy folks, Billy Jean with Thank God It's RC, coming at you today with episode 7 of our Amazon budget LCG build that I like to call TRC for Titanium Rock Crawler. Today we'll be concentrating on having a look at how we're going to do the rear body mounts for my Reef's Plague body. Also, we're going to check out a couple of other things and explain some issues we ran into with the drive shaft cutting we did. So let's turn the camera around and let's get to it. So I've done some figuring on how to make the rear body mount, and these pieces came with the part of my chassis kit that I ordered, but I don't like how tiny they are, and they only have one little hole location to mount the body, like right there on either side. So what I want to do is I'm going to redesign them taller to cover this section right here and put a couple different holes in there so that it bolts together in two places instead of just one. Make it a little stronger. Also, I need to remove this nub from the bottom here because I don't want anything hanging below the chassis. And in making it taller, I can also add a stiffener bar across the back to make it stiffer. And then when it opens, should have plenty of room to hold it all together. Rear chassis mount sorted out. And the front will be a magnet bar across the front. So in a previous video, we had the drive shaft. We tried to put it in the middle section here, and it was a little too long. We said we had to cut 5mm off of it. So I went and I cut 5mm off of this end. I cut 5mm off of that end. What I was unaware when I did that is that the splines on this end were only in the end. So now this spins freely inside the shaft. So I had to order another part. Well, live and learn. So before you go cutting a drive shaft, make sure that the splines go all the way through, because as you can see, there's no splines. I thought the splines went all the way through, but apparently they don't. So I learned something new. Y'all don't have to learn on your own. You can learn from my mistake. Alrighty folks, so just got finished printing and assembling my prototype hinge mount system for the Reef's Plague body on the chassis. So you see they're long. They bolt through the frame here. There's nothing protruding underneath. Right? So we have full clearance under here. There's a stiffener bar going across the center, and the whole thing hinges back. There's two holes there for putting, or four holes rather, two holes on each side for installing screws to mount the body to it. And then there'll be magnets on the front, and this go clip. One day later. Okay, so today the battery finally came in. Fits nicely in its little hole where it's supposed to go. I originally planned on running it flipped the other way, but it put the wires out here in harm's way with moving parts. So I figured I'll run it this way and run the wire on the inside. And it connects up to the ECU down here. And these wires will be like, I can zip tie them up to the frame here. This will be stuck down to that plate there. The transmitter will be stuck to the top of that. And with the new chassis rail having this hoop here, I'll zip tie these wires up to that hoop, and then the cross member going that way will connect to the other side, and the motor wires can be held on to that and then cut somewhere out here to connect up to the other end. So I'm in the middle right now of 3D printing a set of these with the updated hole pattern in the back. And when that's finished, we're going to tear down the whole chassis and install the prototype rails to finish up any dimension checks before we cut the carbon fiber. This is an Amazon knockoff of the Poised T3 chassis. It's good. It's not bad. I just feel that I've done better. I present to you the prototype for the TGI RC Tomahawk chassis. Made some changes to the design from the Amazon LCG. So a couple things about this before we take the body off. These screw heads right here hit these bars when I'm trying to fold it back, so I'm going to design a little clearance into the back of the bar inside there, so that when this folds back, it clears that screw head. Simple. So for now, we're gonna have a magnet mount on the top. Right now I just got it held together with magnets. Okay. I'm waiting on Delrin bar stock to come in. I'm going to be putting a piece of Delrin bar across here that these wires can be tied to, so they're not just hanging there. These wires, these wires are going to get cut back over here and new connectors put on for these there, so that they're shorter and not this giant long loop of wire. I can use the chassis rail here to tie this up. There's plenty of clearance for our spur gear. The magnet mount is nice and sweet. We have massive flex still, both front and rear. I designed these rails taller to receive the magnet bar. I added in this bar here just for mounting options and stiffening and things like that. Like I said, I designed these body mount hinged things, which I'm going to, in the back right here, like I was saying, design a notch in there so that it folds back completely, so that the lid opens up all the way. Also in the chassis, I added in a whole bunch of holes here at the bottom for different body mount or different body styles. So if you have a shorter body or a longer body, can be installed on here. Also, there's multiple holes in the top here for carrier bearing placement. There is absolutely nothing sticking below the chassis. So you got perfect clearance running through here. I designed winglets for the chassis also. These are the ones that came with my kit, but mine are a little bit different, but very similar. The battery mounts nicely in this little cradle with the Velcro. Trying to put it in there single-handedly. Anyways, it mounts right there. The wire tucks underneath and connects to the battery, stays out of the way. This one you can tuck underneath also. Battery is nice and tucked away. Wires are all tucked away. I realized when I was looking at this that I had the tuning bands wrapped around the bottom of the axle here, and when that's going over rocks and stuff, that's just going to tear up the tuning bands. So I tied them a knot through one of these holes on the top of the rail, and then I zip tied it to the frame here just to keep it out of moving parts. I did the same on the rear, but only put it around the back chassis part. We got plenty of movement, so we got that. Drive shaft in the rear is good. Still waiting for a piece for the drive shaft in the front. But yep, this is the TGI RC Tomahawk chassis. What do y'all think? I was looking at it. Why is it drooping to one side? Because one of my front shock mounts, the shock came off because I had the nuts off because I was adjusting the placement of my shocks. I'm like, what? That's weird looking. Anyway, fix that. Now it's all straight. There's plenty of shock adjustment in the front, plenty of shock adjustment in the rear, plenty of adjustment for your links, both front and rear. This thing is fully adjustable to suit the builder's liking. Coming up here, I will be cutting these out of carbon fiber, and all the pieces that, like the magnet bar, this back piece, the wings, the transmission plate, will all be printed out of ABS, and we'll get this thing together. I'm going to be building a second crawler right after this one using the same setup for my wife with a special body that she requested, so be on the lookout for that video coming soon, that series. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments of the TGI-RC Tomahawk chassis. I call it the Tomahawk because it looks like a tomahawk steak. You know, just be the bone, and that's the meat part. So I just thought it sounded like a cool name. I actually at first called it the lamb chop, but my buddy at work, Phil, yo Phil, what's up? Said it looks like a tomahawk, and I said, oh, that sounds a lot better than pork chop, so, or lamb chop. So we're going with tomahawk. All right, this has been Billy Jean with Thank God It's RC with the major update on the Amazon LCG crawler build.